first, I'd like to say hello, everyone, and welcome to Clinical Trials Roundtable. My name is Steve Yankopoulos. I am really, really excited to be here. And of course, I'm an adult living with cystic fibrosis. I'll be moderating the session today, so if there's any issues, you can yell at me, that's fine. The session today will be introducing our other speakers in just a moment, but before I do, I need to provide a few logistical things and reminders. We are going to be recording this session so that we can share the presentation portion while people who are unavailable to attend today. While recording button will show live during the whole session, we will only share the presentation portion and cut it off after our speakers are done. We'll be taking questions from the audience during the session during the last 30 minutes, and we encourage you to turn on your camera to interact with the speakers. I would love to interact with all of you. I'm a big fan of seeing people face to face, but totally understand if you can't. You can use the raise hand feature to ask a question. You may also submit your questions at any time into the question and answer box. You can use your name or ask anonymously as well. We will not be able to answer any questions about individual care treatment plans, and we encourage you to use the information you learned today to have conversations with your care team. We may not be able to get all the questions, but we will do the best to answer them as many as possible. Now, a little bit more housekeeping items. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone of our event conduct guidelines available on the Foundation's website. Please be considerate and open-minded and respectful. We ask that you do not use malicious or offensive speech and do not ask for or give medical advice. If at any time you feel the event conduct guidelines are not being followed, please contact a Cystic Fibrosis Foundation staff member at the help desk. Finally, if you experience any technology problems during the session, please visit the help desk in the expo area on the left-hand side of your screen. All right, now that I read the script, we are ready to get rolling. I'm really excited. Let's get started. Let's move to slide 3 if we can, Rachel. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank Melissa Putnam, Dr. Melissa Putnam. I want to thank everyone for asking me to be a part of this. This is a really humbling experience for me, and I'm very grateful and really honored that to be speaking to all of you, 214 people, a little bit about my story. I am 40 years old, living with cystic fibrosis. That's my picture on the left when I was in the hospital when I was about 16 or 17. I am a twin, and I am actually the older one of the twins, and I'm also, he does not have cystic fibrosis. And I was diagnosed when I was born with meconial ileus. And I participated in countless trials, which is why I'm here today, because I was fond of research. I participated in countless trials, including Pulmozyme, Toby, K-Spin, some of the small ones you've heard, right? Bionic Pancreas. And I wanted to kind of mold everything together by saying that, you know, a little history lesson. How I came into research was this doctor right here, Dr. Mary Ellen Wall. She was the chief division of respiratory diseases at Boston Children's Hospital. For those that don't know or that are younger in the audience, or maybe do, she was one of the pioneers in research with cystic fibrosis, one of the pioneers. This is pulled right off the website, Harvard, all this stuff. She is known for pediatric pulmonary medicine. She's one of the first people to evaluate infant lung function. And she rose to national prominence in the 80s, and she was one of the founders of pediatric pulmonary subspecialty. And she was also the director of general clinical research at Boston Children's Hospital. Next slide, please. Thank you, Rachel. So I was incredibly humbled, and I keep using that word, and honored that she was my doctor. She was, without a doubt, one of the best doctors that I've ever had. And not only that, one of the reasons why all of us are here today. She really developed everything. The quote on the bottom of the slide is actually pulled from one of her talks and I can read it to you, but you can read it yourself. Basically, it says right there, I became aware that good clinical research was needed in that field, and that a multi-center clinical trial would be needed, and turned to clinical research where my psychological skills might be useful. And this is where my passion for clinical research came about. And this is why we're here today. I think that one of the most important things about clinical research that everyone has been talking about since it started at 5 was that it is really instrumental, as you can see, as Dr. Wallace taught me, the communicating part of why do people do the research and why does it help you, and also communicate that we need people to do research, otherwise we really don't have anything, right? So I think it's so important for us to try to work together so that we can advance further in our future in technology. Again, not participating for your own benefit, but it's also important for people like you to be the trailblazer for other patients and to educate clinicians. The TRICASTA wouldn't have come to be without people participating. So it's so important for all of you that are thinking about participating in some study or thinking about doing something to really think about not just yourself, but also think outside yourself and how much benefit it really can give to a lot of people. You're just one part little story of a huge string of stories tied together. I like to think that we're the end product of all the sacrifice and effort that these researchers do. And these researchers do sacrifice and make tons of effort. They give their time, blood, sweat, and tears for us. And I think that's incredibly important for us to recognize and try to help them out along the way. One of the last things I'll say is I am a Star Trek nerd. Sorry for your future, the younger generation, but I think this quote is perfect. The ongoing mission for all is to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no one has gone before. And with that, I would like to introduce today Dr. Suki Reyes, who will be talking about her study.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. I love hearing your story. I love hearing it. So tonight I'm going to talk about the Spectrum study, we will be studying CFRD complications with thoughtful recruitment across diverse groups. I'm a pediatric endocrinologist, but I also care for adults with CFRD in San Antonio, Texas. Next slide, please. So I have no disclosures. Previous slide, please. Whoa. Yes, so diabetes complications. When we usually think of diabetes complications, we think of microvascular complications like small vessels affecting the eyes, the kidneys, and the nerves, or macrovascular complications affecting kind of larger vessels around the heart that can lead to heart disease, or in the brain that can lead to strokes. Next slide. Traditionally, when we thought about CFRD complications, we were mainly focused on nutrition, so complications of weight loss, and complications of lung function, meaning a declining in PFTs. In terms of microvascular complications, we appreciated that they seemed to be less common than in other types of diabetes. And macrovascular complications, which really are a major focus of type 1 and type 2 diabetes, we thought were rare, as people with CF did not have the traditional risk factors of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or weight-related health concerns like overweight and obesity. Next slide. But we know that CF is changing, and we have wonderful medications, including modulators that are improving nutrition and lung function, resulting in a beautiful aging population. We're appreciating shifts in trends in weight, with some people experiencing higher weight. And we have recent studies that show that people with CF, especially with diabetes and high blood pressure, may actually have a higher risk of serious heart problems compared to people without CF. And when we think back about our microvascular studies, we're like, well, geez, now these are like 20 years old, before modulator therapies, before weight changes, and mostly performed in non-Hispanic white individuals. Next slide, please. So why would I even bring that up, like a factor of race and ethnicity? Well, it's because we have a new understanding of CFRD. Our research team actually looked at the registry data over 10 years of time, and we appreciated that CFRD occurs earlier in people who self-identify as Black and Hispanics. And then it occurs more commonly in youth with obesity, or particularly at risk. So not just a concern of weight loss anymore, and more common in people that have public insurance, which made us think, are there other social risk factors, not just like insurance, like education, income, that may complicate CFRD complications? So with that, our study investigators, there's 6 of us, helped devise and create the Spectrum study, which is a multi-center study that will describe microvascular complications and macrovascular disease markers, that's like heart, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, in a diverse population of people with CFRD. We'll recruit ages greater than or equal to 12 years of age, of people who have CF and a diagnosis of diabetes for at least 5 years at the time of enrollment, without a history of organ transplants, and are not pregnant at the time of the study. So the study design is actually what we call cross-sectional, meaning that all procedures will happen just once, but they don't have to happen just on one day. So after we grab informed consent, we'll grab vitals, blood and urine especially to look for diabetes, kidney disease, a diabetes dilated eye exam. Then participants will be given a Dexcom to wear for 10 days to look at continuous glucose monitor data, a wristband to look at an activity tracker for activity for 3 days. We'll keep a food diary for 3 days. We will make sure that we're getting a really good medical history. So now like a family history that's super important of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart attacks and strokes. Questionnaires that will look at, hey, what kind of devices do you use? Are you using pumps? Are you using insulin? Are you using non-insulin medications? And then certain sites will have the ability to offer optional cardiovascular sub-study using pulse wave velocity and pulse wave analysis. Well, what is that? Well, it's a very non-invasive procedure, so no needles, that uses a blood pressure cuff and a little probe that sits on the skin, kind of looks like an ultrasound probe, and it measures arterial stiffness. So the stiffer an artery is, the more concerned that there's a risk for heart disease. And then we'll also offer 24-hour blood pressure monitoring. That's because sometimes in clinic, people have high blood pressure, but maybe they don't have high blood pressure when they go home, or maybe they don't have high blood pressure when they're sleeping. But if they do, that's really important because we know that that also can be a risk factor for heart disease. Next slide, please. So initially, we're going to roll out to 6 core sites. That's actually where our main investigators are. This study will likely roll out after all the contracts are signed and all the things in the next couple of months. And just by the way that funding is, the remaining 14 sites will start rolling out sometime in 2026. So hopefully this comes to a CF center near you. And that's it, a snapshot, and really excited to answer questions later.
Awesome. Thank you, Suki. All right, my turn. Oh, Steve, you have to introduce me, don't you?
Yeah, sure. I'll do a formal introduction.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Suki. Great information. It's part of the script. And really quick, I'll throw it, Melissa, I got you for half a second. Personally, I'm biased. This is a study that I just did with Melissa. So please join me in welcoming Melissa Putnam.
Thanks, Steve. So I am an endocrinologist at Mass General Hospital in Boston, and I'm going to be talking about Bionic CF, which is a multi-center clinical trial looking at the islet bionic pancreas and the management of CFRD. And so I wanted to start by showing this slide here, which is actually the first randomized clinical trial that I led as a principal investigator. And what we did was we enrolled 20 adults with CFRD in Boston, and we had them do their usual diabetes care for 2 weeks, and then we had them use the islet Bionic Pancreas, which is, I'll tell you a little bit about more in a little bit. And we had them use over 2 weeks. And then we compared their blood sugars over both. And so the slide I'm showing you right now is actually the results of this study. It was an initial pilot trial. And so each line on this graph represents a different participant in the trial. And what I'm showing you is how much time they're spending in our target glucose range. So, and on their usual diabetes care in the white, and then the Bionic Pancreas in the blue. And you can see that blood sugars actually got better over the course of the study. But what I really wanted to highlight is this line. This line right here, which next slide is in fact
Whoa,
Steve.
right here.
That is Steve. And I wanted to bring this up because I think it just really highlights how important it is and just how much we as clinicians, as researchers, how much we appreciate the support and, participating in trials and just the CF community supporting the work that we're doing. So thank you, Steve. And so that this actually is we published these results in a high impact diabetes journal. And really this was kind of the foundation for moving forward with the multi-center clinical trial that I'll tell you about in a second. And I also want to point out that Steve was our very first participant enrolled in the multi-center clinical trial of this device. So thank you, Steve. Okay, so I want to just take a step back and give you a little bit of background about kind of like why we are doing this work and why I think it's so important. And so I take care of a lot of people in the greater Boston area with CFRD, both at Boston Children's and Brigham, and then also at Mass General. And this has really given me the opportunity to see some of the unique challenges that people with CFRD face in managing diabetes. And so one of those, the first one is really just the added treatment burden that diabetes adds on top of other really important health priorities. So the insulin monitoring and injections and carbohydrate counting and all of these things that you have to do on top of everything else. There's also a lot of variability amongst different people with CFRD in terms of how much insulin they need. So some people may just need a little bit of insulin with meals, whereas others may need a lot of insulin all the time. And not only is it different between people, but it can actually be different within somebody. So when someone's healthy and doing well, they may need just a little bit of insulin. But then if they get sick or go on steroids, they need a lot more. And also, unlike other diabetes populations, people with CF often have a high calorie requirement, which can mean high carbohydrate or high sugar foods, which can lead to a lot of ups and downs with the blood sugars. And people with CF, and even those without diabetes, can be at risk for spontaneous low blood sugars, and insulin can make that worse. So that's also kind of an added difficulty. And then, of course, there's the impact on quality of life. And so these challenges are the things that really we are trying to address and improve with diabetes technology. And so this is a picture of the iLet Bionic Pancreas. And so it is an insulin pump that is an automated insulin delivery device. So what it is it's connected with a continuous glucose monitor, or a CGM, which is a little device that sits on top of the skin. There's a tiny sensor that goes underneath the skin, and it measures blood sugar levels continuously. And then it sends that information to this device, and then the device will automatically adjust insulin delivery based on that blood sugar. And so this particular device will actually learn what each individual's insulin needs are, and then continually adapt, including when those needs will change, which I think is actually particularly important for people with CF. And it also learns what a typical meal is for each individual person, and then can deliver that instead of having to count up how many carbohydrates people are eating and then enter that into the device. And then finally, all correction dosing is automated. So what that means is if the blood sugars are high, then the device will automatically bring them down. Next
It's
slide.
pretty awesome, I must say. Sorry, Melissa. I mean, I have to be biased. It was great. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah. I mean, we'll definitely talk about it after everybody else goes. You can tell everyone what you think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so and Steve can really speak to this. So so what we're doing for this trial is we're screening everybody, and then we're randomizing to either 13 weeks of your people's typical diabetes management, what they normally do to manage diabetes, or 13 weeks of the iLet Bionic Pancreas. And then at the end of that first part, we're having another 13-week extension period where everybody gets to use the device. And so for Steve, for example, was randomized to the Bionic Pancreas and then got to use the Bionic Pancreas for 26 weeks, and is now looking to start it for his own clinical care, which is awesome. Yeah. And the reason that we're doing this trial and we're enrolling 150 adolescents and adults with CFRD age 14 and above. And the reason that we're doing this really is to get FDA approval for this device for the indication of CFRD, which we hope will help to improve access to this device and improve insurance coverage, which has been a challenge for a lot of my patients. And so this is a map of the country showing where all of our study sites are. And so each star is a different site. So you'll see we got a lot in the New England area. We have one in the South, a few in the Midwest, 3 in Texas. Suki is one of them. So you can go see Suki and be a part of this trial. And then one in Denver and then in Utah. I really had to learn my geography as I was reviewing this, where to put all the stars on this map. And so if anyone listening to this study or this presentation today, if you're interested in potentially learning more about this study, you can reach out to me or find the star closest to you and reach out to that site. Yeah. All right, that's it. Thanks so much.
And no, thank you, Melissa. And that's really exciting. Of course, again, I'm biased. You've been great. And now I want to let you guys hear from Adam Stein on the Strong CF study.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me. I'd like to thank the moderators and the organizers for having Strong CF highlighted. I don't have any disclosures relevant to this presentation, and I'm going to keep it pretty quick and simple. I'm a clinician and not necessarily a researcher. I only really do research when I think the topic is super important. Not to say that research is not important, but I think this study is so important because it really highlights something that I hate, which is BMI. And when I'm in clinic and I get somebody's BMI, I just kind of shake my head because it really, in my opinion, doesn't really highlight what's happening in somebody's body in regards to their nutrition and in regards to just what their body physiology is doing. And in CF, it is really, really, really highlighted in people's clinical care. It's a very sort of it's a marker that people pay a lot of attention to. And the reason is this graph right here, which is now a few years old, which shows that as somebody's BMI goes up, so does their lung function. But I was interested in this because when I was just starting out in CF clinic, I was fresh out of the Digest program, and one of the first people who I saw had a fairly low BMI, less than 19, but was doing great. Their lung function was fantastic, and full disclosure, the clinic was really trying to get them to gain weight. I was like, why? They're doing great. And so out of that frustration, both the person who I was seeing as well as myself bore this study, or at least my role in this study. You can go to the next slide. And what we're really trying to do is redefine how we look at nutrition in cystic fibrosis. We want to explore alternatives to BMI that are better for the individual in terms of predicting what their body looks like from a health perspective, as well as see if we can come up with some sort of clinically driven outcome which reflects somebody's body, whether it's lean mass, which is muscle, bone, things like that, or whether it's fat or what we call adipose tissue in the medical community. Next slide. So what we're doing is an observation study, but it's an active observation study where we bring people in and we follow them over 12 months. And we have 5 clinic visits. And over those 5 visits, we do several things. We get a medical history. We have people get what's called a bone density scan or DEXA scan, which is really the gold standard of looking at somebody's body, looking at the fat-free mass, again, muscle and skeleton versus fat or adipose tissue. We also ask them to do some surveys and a bunch of physical activities, which are kind of fun. We ask them to walk for 6 minutes, which I know many people do anyway in clinic, sit and stand on a chair for a minute, and then we measure muscle strength by having them squeeze this sort of hand grip strength machine. We take some anthropometrics, meaning we measure body fat, we measure waist circumference, things like that. And then finally, we look at some glycemic measures, or basically blood sugar control. All that data we gather, we combine with other people's data, and we really want to see how those things compare to BMI, and also if we can predict anything in regards to people's health, and also identify potential barriers to nutrition. Are people not getting the nutrition that they need for one reason or another? The most exciting part about this, we're in the modulator era. So we're gathering data real time in people who are on modulators to see how modulators are really impacting people's bodies. Next slide, please. These are the sites that we have chosen, and really we chose sites based on, one, whether there's a CF center there or not, and two, whether they have a DEXA machine or a bone density machine that we can use in the study. We wanted to have everybody use the same bone density machine. So sites were picked based on those criteria. If you see a site that's in your area, definitely look into that. We are so excited for the study, but really need people to participate. We've got a good participation in people who have lung function based on their FEV1 or their percentage predicted that are closer to the 100% mark, but we're really looking for people who have lung function that isn't at 100%, more towards 60% and lower. So if you have or know somebody who has relatively low lung function, we're trying to identify barriers from a body perspective to see if we can help with that, maybe. So we really want people to join the study if they can. Next slide. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Adam. I appreciate that. Well done. And finally, let's bring up Dr. Christina Hatcham to talk about the NICE CF study. As an aging adult with CF, colon cancer is screening is a major part of my preventive care. And I have actually been getting a bunch of colonoscopies. I've had 2 or 3 already. So this one is really important to me, and I'm interested to hear what you have to talk about, because I think it's going to be great.
Thank you. Next slide. So I want to say thank you to people for inviting me as well. And I actually see a lot of old friends on the people list, as well as research collaborators. So thank you for joining us, for some of you very late in the evening. So I am the lead PI for the Bionic CF study. So just some background. Our study is a little different from the other studies because we've actually finished enrollment. So I want to say thank you to anyone that's participated, but we want to also highlight the research we've been doing. So we know that the good news is that people with CF are living longer, right? Their survival is improving. You can see more adults than children. If you can advance the slide, there's some words. Yes. So the adult population is increasing, and our median survival now is around 50 years. So that's amazing. Next slide. So this is due to improvements in therapy and people are living longer. The bad side of things is that now we have to really monitor for cancer. And we're seeing increased cancers such as GI cancers, skin, breast, cervical cancer, and people with CF. Next slide. And we know that we've identified some of the risk factors, right, for the CF-related colon cancer. Unfortunately, even if you don't have CF, male sex is a higher risk for colon cancer. Severe functional CF genotype, specifically the F508 delta homozygosity. History of DOS, or if you're age over 30 years, or you've had a history of lung transplantation. We know those are people who are at higher risk for colon cancer. And unfortunately, in those with who develop colon cancer, usually the colon cancer develops before the age of 50, and the majority of colon cancer appears to be right-sided. Next slide. So it's not surprising, although it's still not very well known outside of the CF pulmonary world, but there are colon cancer guidelines for people with CF, and these came out in 2018. Next slide. And what they said was basically that, of course, it's a shared decision between the patient and the provider, and but colonoscopy is the only recommendation for colon cancer screening in people with CF. And they had some positive hints that maybe stool-based FIT testing may be cost-effective and an attractive option, but FIT characteristics in CF populations were lacking at that time. Next slide. So that's where the idea for this research study came. So almost 3 or 4 years ago, probably longer than that, in terms of idea to implementation. But we know that stool-based colon cancer screening, specifically FIT or Cologuard, may be valuable as a first-line test for colon cancer in CF, but we know that it hasn't been evaluated prior to our study. We know that the prep is difficult, whether you have CF or not, and that people with CF are at high risk for colon cancer, and that we know that colonoscopy is actually very high risk in CF and difficult to schedule and do. Next slide. So our study is the non-invasive colon cancer evaluation in CF. And you can see it is never just one person, it's a whole team. And actually, I have multiple centers, 26 centers, and I see some of the research coordinators. I'm sure some of the people here have participated in the study as well. So thank you. Next slide. Our study was very simple. So recruitment from clinic and obtain basic demographics. And we basically asked people what they thought about colon cancer screening. We gave them both the FIT and the Cologuard stool kits to do at home. And then within a year, they had to get their colonoscopy. They were due for colonoscopy anyways, based on their physician's recommendations. And we just surveyed what they thought about collecting stool samples and the screening colonoscopy. And we have collected colonoscopy results. Next slide. Our data. So hopefully some of you will attend NACFC, but our data, we know that stool testing is feasible, but we want to know how does it perform. So last year we presented some of the data on the highlighted here, qualitative surveys on preferences and ease of stool sample collection and colonoscopy prep, and we did comment that people actually felt obviously that stool testing seemed to be easier and they would be willing to do it. But right now we are looking at this primary endpoint, which is really the negative predictive value of stool-based testing compared with colonoscopy for detection of any of these precancerous lesions or cancer. And then looking obviously at sensitivity, specificity, and positive predictive value. And you can see here, we're measuring all of these clinical outcomes. If you want to go back, like how often are you finding polyps in this large patient population? How often are we seeing cancer? How often do people actually complete the stool-based testing, even if it's ordered, or as well as the colonoscopy? And we're going to compare as well all the data. We're hoping to present this in ACFC in October. Next slide. So you can see, just like everybody else, we have a wide distribution. I'm very proud of our sites. We've done a great job of recruiting and enrolling. So we basically consented 389 people and enrolled 362. So I had to look at those numbers, but you can see all across the US. And so thank you to everyone that participated in the study. Next slide. So I'm excited to tell you that we have finished enrollment and recruitment, and partly because, and it was really amazing, the enthusiasm for this study. So we will be having results soon. It's been at least 3 years. And so we anticipate final results this year. So stay tuned, because this study is the largest study to evaluate stool performance characteristics in our population, which is high risk for colon cancer. And we hope to shed light on whether people with CF will have more choices in colon cancer screening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, that's a lot of packful information. Thank you. Wow, a lot of good stuff. I'm actually kind of blown away and excited, honestly, that you guys are doing all this. Thank you all. So, as community voice, you saw Spectrum Bionic Pancreas studies involved in CF, and if you guys want to join, click on the links that Rachel has provided in the chat for more questions.